My tan is actually catching Simon's up now, so it's always good to know.
Yes, well, yours came from the rays of the sun. And I mean, we're delighted to have you on board, Spencer. We won't go into where Simon's colouring comes from. So, look at him looking at me. So, Spencer, a lot to get through in the next hour because so much has been going on. Your thoughts, first off, on the Conor Benn UK return. We've been covering this earlier on this morning. We've been speaking about this ad infinitum. But Conor Benn, apparently now free to return to the ring in Britain after an independent panel found that the UK anti-doping agency UKAD had failed to prove the boxer had committed a doping offence. Is it that simple? Is he back? Is he free to fight in the UK?
Well, the anti-doping committee have said that he's free to box in the UK, but we've heard nothing from the British Boxing Board of Control or UKAD, so until we hear a statement from them, it's still very uncertain where Conor Benn sort of sits at the moment. But I know that the anti-doping committee have said that
lifted his suspension. He's free to fight.
We had said that he's free to fight, but this is my thing, Simon. This is where I'm at with it right now. So I say, if that is the case and he is cleared to fight, and they say he's cleared of any wrongdoing, now that's a strong statement, any wrongdoing, because you go, now where does that leave UKAD and the British Boxing Board of Control? That's why we need to hear from them, because
eunuchs is where it leaves them.
Because all of a sudden, what are we talking about?
Eunuchs.
A loss of. Are we talking about damages here? Loss of earnings?
Well,
I mean, where are we at with it?
And that's my thought. If you've got no case to answer, and you've been a victim of a witch hunt, and ultimately been kept out of the ring for the best part of 2 years in this country, and your reputation trashed, you must be due something.
Absolutely.
And also ultimately, if the UKAD governing body of the drug testing regime in this country and the British Boxing Board of Control are eunuchs and have no jurisdiction, that's equally as bad.
Well, let's get more on it. I'm delighted that top promoter Frank Warren joins us live on the show this lunchtime. We're going to talk to Frank about a variety of different things. But this, it would seem, Frank, first off, good afternoon, Mr. Warren.
Morning, chaps. How are you?
Good afternoon, Frank.
Good. It's afternoon now, Frank. We are delighted that you've joined us live. Frank, here's the thing. This seems to be the developing story in the world of boxing, that Conor Benn is free to fight in the UK again. What do you make of this situation, Frank? Because I think you were fairly vociferous, were you not, about the board and UKAD needing to show that they've got teeth.
Well, they need to show they got teeth if something is correct and the findings are correct. If they're wrong, then obviously they got it wrong. But he's not free to fight yet because he has to be licensed by the Boxing Board of Control before he can fight. And to my knowledge, I mean, I don't know what happened yesterday. I mean, I'm as much as the dark as you are about that. But until the Board of Control license him, as indeed any boxer, they can't fight.
Does he need to be licensed, Frank? I mean, has Tyson Fury got a British Boxing Board of Control license, or does he need to be approved to fight in this country?
No, he can get a license in another territory, but if he has a problem with drugs or he skips a ban or anything like that, then obviously they won't license him. What happened with Tyson? He was licensed, and then he decided to give his license up because he was based out in Vegas at that time. If you remember, he fought outside the UK for about 2 years, which was nothing to do, by the way, with drugs or anything. That was his decision to do that. He still could have fought in this country anytime he liked.
Are you? I mean, I'm assuming, Frank, I think you and I have discussed this. You are a subscriber to the idea of strict liability, aren't you?
I'm a subscriber. If first of all, I'm a subscriber that if anybody is found,
well, a failed drug test is a failed Frank. A failed drug test is a failed drug test, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. If anybody has failed a drug test and they go through the hearing process, which they should do, in my opinion, and should have to do from the beginning, that should be in the regulations of the Boxing Board of Control and UKAD, for that matter, that if you want to fight in this country or participate in any sporting event, and you are under that jurisdiction of the particular organisation, in this case the Boxing Board of Control, you have to attend a hearing to determine whether you are guilty or not guilty, or prove your case, or whatever it may be. And if you don't, then you should be barred. That should be because you're not participating. As far as I'm concerned, if somebody is found guilty of positive and they can't explain why it's in their system, they should be banned from boxing.
Frank, what I'm struggling to understand is if the National Anti-Doping Committee have come up with this now, saying that Conor Benn's cleared of any wrongdoing, but yet he's failed 2 drugs tests on 2 different dates. How have they come to that decision?
I've got no idea. That's a question for them to answer. I don't know what happened yesterday. You don't know what goes
Do you
on behind
consider him
closed
cleared,
doors.
Frank? I mean, do you consider him now a cleared fighter?
I would consider him. I haven't seen the actual. I haven't seen what the actual findings and how they put it out. So I'd like to see that first, because whether it was prefixed by something or whatever it be, or it was a legal problem, I don't know what the background is, so I can't comment on that. But the Border Control will obviously know, because they sign up for UCAD, and for them now, it's up to them to look at it and decide whether they're going to license or not. And by the way, we all as license holders in boxing deserve to know what the criteria is, because you can't expect all of us to follow guidelines if there is something that's wrong. I mean, and what I mean by that, if Conor Benn if he was right all along, and it's taken 2 years for that to happen, that's outrageous.
Yeah.
If he was right, because you're a boxer, you have a short career. I mean, don't know.
That's the mess and the confusion, Frank, around this. Is to go, if this is the case,
we
and it's
need- we
2
need to
years, a
know.
complete mess.
Yeah, we need to know. Mike Morgan's a very, very, very astute guy who represented him, a very, very good lawyer in this field. So, he's done.
He gave brilliant advice. Got him out of the ring for 2 years and got him stuck in front of Piers Morgan. That was great.
Well, but that's not his advice, is it? I mean, that's
the framework that he was working within, Frank. And it's interesting because you were very condemnatory of the situation 2 years, and you're not so condemnatory now, because strict liability is very simple. And you know more about this, as you regularly point out to people that listen to you. You know more about things than people like me do. But the clear guidelines around drug offences is strict liability. If you have got drugs in your system, you are under the auspice of strict liability. You're getting a ban, and the ban can be reduced.
You are under. I'm not defending him, and I'm not changed my opinion. I don't know why you're saying that. Well, what I'm saying,
I'm saying it because I think you've lined up with Eddie now, and you won't say anything derogatory about one another, and that's his promoter.
Well, you would. It's a bit like you won't say nothing derogatory about your pal.
I do.
Ben Shalom.
I do all the time.
And his mate Majid. You don't have nothing to say about that.
But I do, absolutely. As you know, I do, Frank.
What do you feel about him working with the cricket guy, the cricket fixer?
I think it's appalling, and I don't think he is working with him. And I think he's the manager of Josh Buatsi. And Eddie Hearn works with Josh Buatsi, and you've worked with fighters that have got a relationship with Mazza Majid. So what are you on about?
Who have I worked with who's got a relationship?
Well, I'll think of it in a second, but I know that you have.
It'll take you longer than a second, I promise you.
Frank, you, of course.
But besides that, I've got to answer what you said there. What I said, I've not changed my mind. What I am saying, I'm doing something which you don't know, nor do I know, nor does Jim know, or anybody. And Spencer just said we need to know. Why did they come to this conclusion?
Yes, very true. Very
true. First of all, was Conor innocent? His explanation from what I understand, was he was eating some eggs or something.
That wasn't his explanation. That was a WBC.
Or WBC, whoever it was. But whoever it was, all that stuff sounded pretty ludicrous to me. But the fact of the matter is, until we know, nobody can give an opinion on it. But the Boxing Board of Control will know, and we as licence holders should know what the criteria is, because, again, as far as I'm concerned, if I've got a fighter fighting somebody and the guy has failed a drug test and they've allowed him to fight on, I'm worried where he's still doing that. If he hasn't done anything and he can explain why it's in his system, then so be it. But until we all know, nobody can do it. All I'm doing, I'm reading, actually, as we're talking now, I'm reading a report in the Times today about it, which is a very short report.
I think we need to hear from the Boxing Board. That's basically where we're at.
We've got a call into Robert Smith, who's in a meeting which appears to have gone on for several hours. But when Robert comes out, maybe he wants to join us. But we'll keep trying. Here's one for you, Frank. Daniel Dubois, now not set to face Anthony Joshua next February in a rematch. Is that true? He doesn't face Joshua, and if that is the case, what's next for him?
Well, it's very, very, very doubtful. And he'll fight. There'll be the rematch. I don't think that's happened, and we're working on other opponents at the moment. I literally got off the phone about half an hour ago to his father and to his trainer Don Charles, and we're looking at a couple of options.
Joe Parker, Frank? Joe Parker, Frank?
He's one of the fighters that are on the list.
Good fight there. It's a good fight, that.
It was a very good fight. I haven't got all the fights with that. When's Daniel Dubois not been in a good fight? Every fight he has is good.
Agreed. But it's a good fight. Ultimately, if we can't get the AJ situation, which a lot of people want to see for obvious reasons, if you're going to then put someone else in, I think Joseph Parker has earned the right to be in there, isn't he?
He has, and as well as other guys have. It's been a very, very lively scene, this heavyweight scene, this last 12 months. There's no doubt about that.
And Frank, while we have you on this lively lunchtime, what next for Fabio Wardley?
He will fight next year. Again, we're looking at some fights and opponents for him. He'll fight somebody who's ranked in the top 10, and he'll be looking for a big fight, which we're going to do for him at his hometown football club, Ipswich, in the summer.
Very good.
I mean, he's put himself up there, Frank, isn't he, with the big names now, and it can't be long before we're talking about him fighting the likes of, Joseph Parker and the big names that are up there.
Look, he could be doing that now. There's no doubt about it. But I'd like to see him have one more fight against a decent opponent, a good opponent in the top 10, and then fight somebody who's in the top 5. That's what I want to see happen. It was a phenomenal, conclusive knockout fight. For as long as it was on. I mean, everything about it showed what he's all about, which is a big puncher, a great finisher. He'd done the job in style.
Mr. Frank Warren, thank you again, not for the first time, for joining us live on talkSPORT.
It's a pleasure, chaps. Have a nice afternoon.
What
Thanks,
a
Frank.
lovely man.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.